Hi, everyone.
Hello. Hello, Miss Henriksson. Is it only me who sees just a black screen?
Yeah, with me it's just okay. Here now you can see.
Oh, okay, perfect. Hello, good afternoon.
So how does this? I just wanted to log in first to see how this works because I
Yes. Cool. Okay, yes, we are now live on YouTube, so we are soon gonna start. So yeah, the audience is now tuning in, and they can see and hear us right now. So
okay, that's nice. Thank you for letting me know.
yes, and right now we're just waiting for Miss Skendo to join as well, and then I think we will shortly start.
Sounds good.
And just a suggestion, maybe for technical reasons, if we're not speaking, to mute the microphone.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Hi, hello again. Yes, we're gonna start in 1 minute, 2 minutes stop. Yes. Hi, hello everyone. Good afternoon again. It's officially 5, so I think we can start. So once again, welcome to our amazing guest speakers, and welcome to everyone that is watching us from the live stream on YouTube. Um, this is the ENE panel discussion, and it's a discussion with the law alumni, and it was planned and organized by ILSA The Hague chapter. So I would like first of all to introduce myself. I am Bianca Maria Liao. I am 22. I'm originally from Romania, but I lived most of my life in Italy. I am a third year student, and I'm specializing in commercial law. And I'm part of the ILSA Management Board. I am both the president and the head of the Social Events Committee. A little about ILSA. So ILSA stands for International Law Student Association, and ILSA The Hague chapter is a study association within the Hague University of Applied Sciences. So ILSA The Hague chapter, also ILSA HHS chapter, is one of the chapter of the mother association ILSA. which is a non-profit association that aims at connecting students and professionals who are dedicated to promote international law. And further, ILSA provides students with study, research, work opportunities, and network opportunities in the international legal field. That is why the goal for this year's Management Board 2020-2021 is to bring ILSA the Hague chapter to its full potential and while creating amazing opportunity for the members and reaching the international law student community through all the activities and the events that we organize through our three main committees, which is the Social Events Committee, the Main Events Committee, and the ILSA Journal Committee. So, I would like now to give the floor to the other board members that are present here tonight, and I'll let Sarah Jane start.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Jane Chakaryan and I'm a third year international law student specializing in commercial law, and I actually have been part of ILSA ever since I started university, so back in 2018, and I'm very honored to have been elected as the Vice President and Head of Communications of ILSA just a few months ago.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining. My name is Mara Corlade. I'm 21 years old from Romania. Currently, I'm a third year student specializing in public international law and human rights. I have also been an active member of ILSA since my first year at the Hague University, and I'm privileged enough and honored to say that now I am the head of main events.
Hi everyone, my name is David Mustafa. I'm also a third year international European law. I chose the commercial law specialization. Last year I was the secretary of the ILSA journal, and this year I have the privilege of being the editor-in-chief. My task is mainly to oversee the editing process, contact the authors, provide feedback, and of course publish the issue. This pretty much sums it up. So I'll pass back the floor to Bianca.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all. And then I would like to introduce our marketing team, who right now is working hard to make sure that all the events run smoothly, that we are live streaming correctly, all the, these technical issues. So we have, first of all, we have Aisha Aziz, who is our head of marketing. She's 17. She's Libyan, but has moved around between the UK, Dubai, and United States. And she's a first-year student, and she's the head of marketing. And then we have Daniel Nivmas, who is the assistant to the head of marketing, and he's 20. He's a third-year student as well, and he's specializing in international criminal law. And lastly, he is half German and half English. So thanks again, guys, for all the hard work. Yeah. And now I would like to continue, but before continuing and finally introducing our guest speakers, I would like to give the floor to Julia Miragalmas, who is the former editor-in-chief, and to David, who is our current editor-in-chief, who has a very special announcement about the ILSA Journal 2019-2020 issue.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Julia Miragalmas, and I was the editor-in-chief of the ILSA Journal from 2019 to 2020. And along with my colleague David Mustafa, and on behalf of the ILSA Law Journal editorial board of 2019-2020, we're very proud to present issue 1 of the ILSA Law Journal 2019-2020, which you can see right now. I believe you can access it through a link that has been posted on the chat. And just a bit of context on it. The ILSA Law Journal is a branch of ILSA, the Hague chapter, and its main task is to publish issues with the aim of contributing to a richer understanding in international law. So as such, it provides students and early academics with the opportunity to publish their work. So to ensure this, the journal has welcomed submissions from students as well as alumni from the International European Law Programme of the university. And during 2019 to 2020, the journal has been very pleased to welcome Dr. Mihail and Ms. Christine Tremblay as guest editors in the publication of this issue 1. A bit of explanation on this issue. This issue addresses the theme of enforcement of international law, and we believe that this topic needs to be addressed and given importance for two different reasons. Firstly, in an age of crisis, the enforcement of international law is facing new challenges. And secondly, state cooperation is increasingly giving way to isolationist trends, which can pose a threat to the foundations of the post-war international legal order. I would like to give the floor to my colleague right now, who will explain a little bit more about it.
So basically, we'll provide a short summary of the papers, just so you have an idea. And of course, we'll try not to spoil everything, so we can make sure that you go and read them. So the first paper is written by Ms. Johanna Khatib, and it is about the protection of the Palestinian refugees offered by international law. As it is known, the Palestinian refugee situation has been and continues to be a serious issue. This paper demonstrates an excellent example on how a legal interpretation can result in the enhancement or limitation of the protection of this community. Specifically, the author analyzes the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees in the light of the interpretation of CJU and UNHCR. It is important to note that the Refugee Convention is the only human rights treaty that lacks a distinct body which ensures its implementation. Sorry for that. So, as you could imagine, that makes the enforcement and the interpretation even more difficult. Spoiler alert, there is a lack of consensus when it comes to determining the degree of protection between these two organs. However, the author favors one approach and provides an interesting explanation on why that approach ought to be taken. Very interesting read, I highly recommend it. The second paper is written by Mr. Bram Schelde, and it explores the effects of the EU Service Directive and its scope of applicability. Concretely, Mr. Schelde zooms in the historical relationship between the Service Directive and the Dutch municipality law. We already know by now that directives leave room for interpretation, and that interpretation sometimes might not go as planned. That was the case with the Dutch Administrative Court. After the CJU ruling, this Vatsov, which was concerned with the interpretation of the Service Directive, the authorities realized that the interpretation was wrong. Understandably, this came as a shock to the Dutch authorities, and many legal consequences followed. The author describes these consequences and the conflicts that arose in that regard. So, also an interesting paper, highly recommended. I'll pass the floor to Julia, and she will summarize the rest of the papers. Thank you.
Thank you. So our third article is titled The Development of the ICJ's Jurisprudence on the VCCR, JADHAV and Consular Access to Persons Accused of Espionage by Majed Dib. So this article addresses the International Court of Justice's judgment concerning the Article 36 of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, as well as the ICJ's jurisprudence on this provision. And it makes a special focus on the case of JADHAV between India and Pakistan, where the ICJ addressed issues concerning depriving consular access on grounds of national security, as well as the relationship between the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations and subsequent bilateral agreements. So finally, this article also addresses the ICJ's contribution to the legal issue of consular access to persons accused of espionage. And lastly, our final article is titled Treaty Drafting Strategies to Enhance the Enforcement of International Criminal Law in the US Domestic Legal System, and it's written by Sarah Harrell. And this article addresses the enforcement of international law in domestic legal systems, and it addresses the challenges that brings. These challenges partially stem from the lack of clarity of certain aspects of the relationship between international and domestic law, the blurring lines between the two, and the occasional overlap that we find. And finally, the article regards those challenges in the light of both the perspective of prioritization of international law, overnational law, and the perspective of which advocates that the international law must be viewed through a domestic legal framework. Thank you.
Okay, so I would also like to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Vargas again and Ms. Tremblay for their guidance and insight. I would also like to thank you, Mr. Orange, and of course the members of the editorial board. But more importantly, I would like to give a special thanks to the previous board, namely Ms. Talis Cabral, Ms. Charlotte Tran, Ms. Celine Hadi, and Ms. Ada Tataru. Lastly, I have a special announcement for you. This week, we are introducing the new call for submissions. It's about the upcoming issue of 2021. Everyone is welcome to submit a piece. We will edit, and of course, we will contact you. So please look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you to both of you. And again, I would like, to thank again, as David already mentioned, the ILSA Journal Committee and the former ILSA Management Board. Thank you, and of course, thank you, Julia, for presenting it, and David as well. Okay, now I would like to then start, and I will give the floor to our guests to introduce themselves. And I would like to ask Miss Brust if she wants to start.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca. I currently live in Amsterdam. So I moved to the Netherlands about, I think, 12 years ago now. I'm half Swedish, half Dutch, and I have an Indonesian background. So I have quite an international upbringing. I lived in Sweden, I lived in the Netherlands, I lived in Spain for a while, in Sri Lanka. So I moved around a lot as a kid. I graduated from the Hague University in 2013. Wow, that seems like such a long time ago. And I specialized in corporate and commercial law, and after which I started an internship in China and finally got my master's in 2016. Also specializing in corporate and commercial law at Maastricht. So that's it. So I'm very excited. Thank you to the ILSA Management Board for the invitation, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you very much. And I will then give the floor to Ms. Henriksson.
Great, thank you. Also, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here talking with you today. And so I'm Kerttu Henriksson. I'm from Finland, and I moved back to Finland about 2 years ago. So I graduated in 2016, and then afterwards I moved to Uganda for a couple of years, and then did my master's in Maastricht as well in criminology, forensics criminology and law. And then I moved back a couple of years ago, and now I live in Finland. I work with Finnish National Bureau of Investigation, so the NBI, which is like the Finnish equivalent of the FBI in the States, so the National Police. And I also just went back to law school, so I'm doing a master's in Finnish law now. So yeah, I'm super excited to be here and to talk with you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and also good luck to you with your studies as well.
Thank you.
I would like now to give the floor to Dr. Vatsov.
Hello. Can you hear me well? Yeah, okay. So hello, my name is Mihail. I'm from Bulgaria. I'm currently in Sofia, but I often travel to Burgas at the Black Sea for one of my jobs. I graduated a year early from the Hague University in the fall of 2013.
Wow.
Since then, I did an LLM in Maastricht, another LLM in Florence at the EUI, and this year I completed my PhD in Edinburgh. I'm currently working as a fisheries consultant at the Bulgarian Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Forestry. I'm also consulting for the FAO, specifically the GFCM, which is the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean, again on fisheries issues. I'm interested in supporting sustainability through my work and in my private life. What I do also is that I'm developing currently also a side project with my brother, which is called eFortunes, which is a paper-free service for drawing eFortunes, which is basically short quotes, which are the idea of which is to basically set the mood, similar to the paper fortunes or paper wishes that are customary to take in some countries with one's coffee or tea. So the idea is again to further sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have Miss Skendo.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Siera. I'm an Albanian former student now, moved to the Netherlands a little more than 4 years ago. As you can imagine, if you see the year I graduated, I am a really fresh alumna. I just graduated 2.5 months ago. During my studies, I specialized in public international law and human rights. And following that course, I'm also now pursuing an LLM in public international law at Queen Mary University of London. I have not been very engaged in a lot of activities as the former speakers have, because, as I said, I'm a really fresh alumna. However, I'm really humbled and really grateful to be called in this panel with former students of my university, and in my very dear former association. I was part of ILSA since day one of my studies, and it's actually been a huge, very important part of my student life in The Hague. So I could not be happier to be back and talk to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all very much. You're all very interesting alumni, and this is exactly why we reached out to you all to be our speakers today. And to break the ice a bit, I will start off by asking 2 small general questions, which I would like to hear an answer from each one of you. And from your introductions, we understood that you all graduated in different years, 2013, 2016, and 2020. So you all have different experiences here in The Hague and at The Hague University. So we'd like to know what did you take from your time studying at The Hague University and living here in The Hague, which is known as the City of Peace and Justice, that has helped you reach here where you are now? Who would like to go first? Yes, Ms. Brust?
Yeah, I can start, sure. So it's a very broad question. So I think for me, it boils down to 2 things that I really say that I mean, it's still very broad. My answer is going to be very broad because I took so much with me. But if I really have to think about 2 things, I would say just the knowledge in general and all the content, everything that I learned in all the courses. I specialized in corporate and commercial law. So when I started my first internship in this global Chinese law firm where I was, sort of thrown into the corporate M&A department, that was, such a big and important, it just made the transition so much easier because I sort of knew what people were talking about. And even though, of course, when you start a new job, you have no clue what you're doing, at least I didn't, I still felt a little bit more confident in the fact that I had a little bit of a background. So that was, of course, the main takeaway. And of course, you also develop certain skills when you're studying, right? So, writing, presentation, like you guys are doing now, you're presenting. This is super valuable for you guys later on. It's going to make it so much easier. I've always been really afraid of public speaking, for example. So, these, all these presentations and all that, I'm not sure if you still have that weekly assignments that we have to do with the university. Well, those things really help because I know there's always been this discussion between, research university and HBO. And to be honest, when I started, I didn't really know the difference between the two. But it hasn't really affected me negatively in any way, I would say. And a skill that I learned with all these assignments that we have, this very practical approach, has been super useful in my practice. So yeah, I would say those are the two things that I've taken away from the Hague University. I didn't live in The Hague, so I can't say much about that. I did in Amsterdam, but
Yes, thank you very much. And I totally agree. I feel like we won't appreciate these skills classes until we actually graduate. So everyone who's watching, make sure to go to those skills classes because, as you said, they're really useful. And Ms. Henriksson, I saw you were about to speak.
Yeah, I can continue. Thanks. Funny because I was also going to say the practical skills. Really, that has been a major benefit in my career as well, because all the different skills that you can learn, and the drafting of different documents and all of this. So that is a huge benefit. But then I think the different cultures around me in The Hague, that was the most beautiful part, and also it really taught me a lot because it's without really paying attention to it, you just become a much more understanding of different cultures and maybe appreciate them more and start to value them so much more. So that really helped in working in different environments, because then you're always curious and you're always more understanding and learning how the other person is communicating and what is their perspective, and that really always helps. So I think those two things. And what about The Hague? I miss The Hague so much. I loved it so much there. Yeah, I just loved it. I don't know. I cannot specify what.
No, yes, thank you very much. I totally agree also with the international aspect because I actually was brought up in Lebanon. So I was only surrounded by Lebanese people, and then coming here to the Netherlands, it was nice to meet people from different countries with different experience. Like it really made me also think internationally. And because we're taking like the international course, that also helps a lot because in the future we'll be dealing with international customers and colleagues. So yes, I totally agree with that as well. And yeah, Ms. Skendo, would you like to also share your thoughts?
Yes, thank you. So I completely agree with the previous speakers. Those are things that I would totally say were huge benefits of the program and of The Hague, but I will now make it a bit more personal. I think the main benefit of me being a student in The Hague and just my experience on its own was gaining my independence. So when I moved to the Netherlands, it was the first time in my life that I was away from everything, had just turned 18 years old, was faced with all of this. And the fact that you are thrown out in the world and you have to stand on your 2 feet and be independent, have full-on decision-making power. I think that's the best and the greatest thing that The Hague has given me, or the experience on its own. And then if we talk about the town, of course, I love the town as well. I like it, but as a student of public international law, I would say I appreciate it a lot because of the really big engagement and exposure you have with international organizations, with NGOs, and it's a bit of a dream for a student of PIL to spend time in The Hague. For example, I got my dream internship in The Hague, and it was so convenient and it was so great. So I definitely appreciate that a lot about The Hague, which is very specific. The other aspect of it, I would say, is our very special or high demand that we have throughout university years really teaches you a lot. Such as interpersonal skills. I would mention flexibility, and then the ability to work well under pressure. I know that we all had to work a lot during our student years, so these are some of the greatest things that I will take and will be forever with me from The Hague and the university, of course.
Thank you, Ms. Kendo, and I do also agree with that. We're very lucky to be here in The Hague, where we're surrounded with many different organizations that can meet the needs of any student who's studying law, so we should take advantage of it.
Yeah.
And Dr. Vatsov, would you like to share your thoughts as well?
Yeah. I can hardly add more to what was already said by my fellow panelists, but I guess two things that I can say is that on the one hand, a lot of knowledge and drive to develop. This was one thing that I got from my experience in The Hague. And on the other hand, there's a lot of long-lasting friendships with classmates, such as my flatmate, for example, Radoslav, or Mr. Antonov, as well as with lecturers such as Dr. Vagias, with whom we often speak. So these would be the two main things. And with respect to The Hague, I guess the Peace Palace Library, this is what I miss.
Yes, thank you. And actually, the Peace Palace Library was closed for a few weeks because of the COVID-19 measures, but it just opened a few days ago, so we should also go there. But yeah, before we start off to get to know each one of you more personally, I would just like to ask my last question, which is, if the person you are now could give advice to your younger law student self, what would it be, and would you have done anything differently? Ms. Brust, would you like to start?
Sure. If I could give myself, my younger law student self, advice, and I often do this to my younger sister, who is now also in third year in the Hague University, unsolicited advice. Sorry, Mihail. I would tell myself to relax. I was really busy, I was working really hard, but I would tell myself, as long as you keep working hard and you have your goals set, it will sort of fall into place. I spent a lot of energy worrying about whether I was making the right decisions, and confused about where I wanted to be, and I think it was a process that I needed to go through, but the worrying around it was a waste of energy. So first of all, I would tell myself to relax, and I think second of all, I would tell myself that I should focus on my strengths and not my weaknesses. So when I first started working, I noticed that I was often comparing myself to others. Oh, okay, so when I first, for example, my first internship, I was in China. Everyone was a qualified Chinese lawyer. I didn't speak the language. I was a foreign associate, which of course I didn't have to speak the language, but I was focusing on my weaknesses a lot. And it took a while for me to try to turn that around, to try to think, okay, well, what are my strengths, and why shouldn't I focus on that? And once I started focusing on what I was actually good at, those are the things that I actually enjoy, it just went so much easier for me. So I wish I would have given that advice to myself younger, but now I'm happy that I've realized this, and it's helped me a lot.
Yes, thank you very much. I think I need to be telling myself to relax and to calm down as well. But I mean, I totally do agree. Like, we're all taking different paths, and as long as we're moving forward and growing, that's the main thing. It doesn't have to be, we shouldn't be moving so fast, but just go forward. And Ms. Henriksson, how about you?
Well, first of all, that sounded like a great advice. I wish I also would have had it. Well, I was taking it. I was quite relaxed, though. I was always thinking that things will fall into place, and they will. They always will. But what I would have, I would tell myself now, to my younger self, is probably that I shouldn't be so shy, because I was always thinking that I'm not ready. I don't have enough knowledge to engage or be active in class. I think it took me 2 years until my specialization, and I specialized in international criminal law. I didn't say it yet, and so it took me those 2 years till I finally felt confident enough to actually, just think for myself and to ask questions and to be more active and challenge people around me and all that. So I just wish that I would have started that sooner, because nobody's ready. We're all there to learn. So then how you can really, get more out of it is by being active, I think. So yeah, that's it.
Yes, I also agree with that, because I actually used to be a very shy person at school, and then starting university, I found comfort getting out of the comfort zone. And once you get out of it, you realize that it's not as scary as you think it is, and it's never too late to start being out there and being active. It's very important, I think. And Miss Skendo, how about you?
Yes, thank you. So again, great advice from my previous speakers. What I would add to that is I would actually advise my younger self and young students to increase their engagement at university. And what I mean by that is be as involved as you possibly can with either student associations, I don't know, join the debate team, or be as present as you can in the events where we have guests. You can learn a lot from them. You can in that way also get to be known by lecturers, which is a really great thing because they can help, and it's all positive. So I would say increase your engagement, join a moot court, be as active as you can because it will only benefit you in the long run. And at the same time, I remember my time at the student associations I was part of as I had the best memories there because you really get to know a lot of people. Those are your closest friends. So I can only recommend this. Of course, to balance everything and not to overstress and not to overdo it. But I think this is a really great tip, especially for really young students who are not really finding themselves. I think, for example, joining ILSA was one of the greatest things I did in terms of finding friendships and then getting to know how I work. Another advice I would give is to, as my previous speaker said, to not worry about having a perfect plan or having it all figured out. I see, and I used to see it a lot as a student when I was on, I would say, third or fourth year, that you talk to your peers and they would seem like they have it all figured out. And that is very intimidating. And I know that because I felt it as well. And to be very honest with you guys, I did not have it all figured out what I was going to do this year either. It's just something that just really came organically or naturally. And in the end, as my colleague said, it will fall into place. It all falls into place. So you just do one great thing and save yourself all the stress, and do not feel like you have to have a perfect plan. And then you need to know what's your dream company, what's your dream job, etc., etc. So these are the two main advices that I would give to myself.
Thank you very much. That was very useful, and I'll keep that in mind as well. And Dr. Vatsov, and what about you?
Well, I guess one main thing would be that, it is all going to be worth it. All of the efforts we put in the classes, in the assignments, it's all going to be worth it, and it all has purpose. But one more specific advice, I guess, I would like to have given myself is to pay more attention to my well-being, especially physical well-being. Doing the exercises, eating healthy, because these are things that me and also my classmates, we did not really pay attention to. We were, junk food, all kinds of things. We think that we'll be forever young. Well, we are still young, but those things that we do in those years to our bodies in terms of food are very important. So we should not underestimate them. That's one thing. And another is another advice would be not to forget about the possibility of coming back home. In my case, coming back to Bulgaria, which at the time I did not really think that would happen. I thought, okay, I'm in The Hague, I'm doing ENE international law, I'll end up in Brussels, and that's it. But here I am. So we should never forget the possibility of coming back home.
Yes, I agree. Thank you very much. And I mean, there's no better way to get advice than students who have actually been in our shoes and understand more, because like we can get advice from our family, from teachers, but they've not actually been in the exact same shoes. So it's very valuable advice that I hope everyone is taking into consideration. And I'll now pass the floor to David.
Hi. So my question would be for Ms. Brust. Here on the board, we're looking through your CV, and it was indeed very colorful. And the one specific point that drew my attention was your experience as a compliance paralegal at Philips. So basically, right now, for every commercial student, I speak on behalf of them, we are doing the compliance minor. Right now, we're being taught that we need a specific set of values to work in the compliance sector. That could be work values, it could be ethical values. So could you please describe your main takeaway or your main set of values that you, let's say, implemented during this period?
Yeah, sure. So maybe to give some background to it. So at Philips, the legal team is structured into, so you have the M&A and the corporate team, and you have the compliance team. They're roughly, I would say, equally as big. And then you have the data protection and the privacy team. They're actually part of compliance, so because they're so big, because of the GDPR, they now have their own team. So I was part of the compliance team. So I was responsible for making sure that Philips and also the employees, we just very broadly were complying with the law, basically. So I think my main takeaway is, I came from a very corporate M&A background. Before this, I worked in 2 law firms, one in China and one here in the Netherlands. And I was very much focusing on the M&A restructuring, corporate contracts, very hardcore sort of corporate work. And when I went to Philips, I think I underestimated the importance of compliance, and I'm jealous that you guys have a compliance course or minor, whatever you call it, because I wish I would have had that. That would have been so useful for me. It was all new for me, to be honest. So I think my main takeaway was it is compliance. And when I say compliance, I'm talking about compliance in the 4 main fields. So that's how we say it in Philips. So we talk about anti-bribery and corruption. We talk about data protection and privacy. We talk about export control, sanctions, and we talk about antitrust. And if I would have known how important it is, and also not just for the company, just to comply, but also for yourself as a legal counsel, it is knowledge that you will use in I use it now on a daily basis as a legal counsel in all my work. Contracting, compliance is everywhere. So I think the main importance, the main takeaway was how important it is. Let me think. Yeah, I think that was my main takeaway. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Miss. And now I would like to address a question to Miss Henriksson. Earlier during your introduction, you mentioned that you lived in Uganda. So I actually wanted to ask about your experience there and your experience not only in the country. So what cultural challenges you faced when arriving there and how you overcome them, but also your experience in the International Crime Division of the High Court of Uganda.
Thank you. Okay. So, I can also give a little background to that. So, on my 4th year in The Hague, I got an internship at the ICC, and I was working on a Ugandan case. And so when my internship was over and I was graduating, I had this, I got a feeling at the ICC that I need to see how it works in practice. Like, how is international criminal law really affecting the people who've been affected by the war and the conflict and all that. So then I got the opportunity to work in Uganda because they were looking for interns there at the High Court. And of course, I hope this is still working, because are you still hearing me? Because you're freezing. Well, maybe you are.
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. Okay, because the picture's freezing. Anyway, so this is the kind of things that I would get used to in Uganda, because everything would freeze all the time, right? So the culture is completely different from the European one. It's more social, it's more warm, it's more relaxed, which means it's also a lot slower. And at work, it would mean that at my first day at the court, we started at 8. we went to see a terrorism case, and we waited in the full courtroom for 3-4 hours until the judges came to say that we can go for lunch now. We need to postpone. So we all went to lunch, and I was thinking like, okay, this is interesting. Nobody else seems to mind. Like I was the only one who seemed like was bothered by it. And then after lunch, we went back, and the judges came back to say, okay, one of the lawyers didn't show up, so let's see again tomorrow. Bye. And so this was a perfect example of how things would go for the next half a year, because everything would take long. And so this was probably the main challenge, because in Europe we're used to working all the time in a really high speed, and if something slows you down, you get frustrated and you feel like you're late and you're not progressing. So the biggest challenge was that, and then how I overcame it was definitely that what I was saying earlier about being in a multicultural environment, because it made me realize that there is something of value in this experience and I need to figure it out. What is it? And so I learned so much patience and understanding how to communicate here, and how relationships here are important, and how small talk is important, and all of these things. And also then I learned in practice like how maybe I was a little bit disappointed how I saw what international criminal law does in practice for the actual person that it's trying to help, maybe, if they are seeing any difference, but that's another story. I hope that answered your question. I'm not sure.
Yes, definitely. And yeah, maybe if you can add maybe a little more about the actual work in the International Crime Division.
Yeah, so what we were doing is that I was working at the victim section again, like at the ICC, and over there I was collaborating with the victims' lawyers. And what we would do, we started a war crimes trial there. After 10 years, the conflict was over. So this guy had been waiting for his trial for all those years. And so then we started the trial, and we would interview victims in the rural areas and take their applications for victim participation. And I was writing up different, materials for the victims to try to make the international criminal law procedures very understandable, because we would try to inform all the people in the rural areas what was going on. And yeah, then just research a lot of different things. But as I said, half of the time was waiting. I mean, all of the meetings that we went to started an hour late. Everything started an hour late. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, then well, at least practice patience, as you said, and because that is a very valuable skill. Like, yeah, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And Dr. Vatsov, since we're asking specific questions tailored to each one of you, I have a question for you. You have recently received your PhD at the University of Edinburgh, and many students might see this, well, how I view it, like getting a PhD is like an extra step in your education that's not as necessary as getting a bachelor or a master's. So we would like to know, why did you decide to get a PhD? And also from your experience, how and in what ways does holding a PhD open more doors in the job market? Like, what are the advantages of holding a PhD?
Thank you. Well, the University of Edinburgh was really the best choice for me, the best choice I could have in relation to the topic of my thesis, which focused on the EU's external action in the area of fisheries. Having a PhD today, I guess, is almost a prerequisite for a serious academic career. And in that sense, it opens the doors to that type of work. Otherwise, I think the usefulness of a PhD degree is closely connected to the topic of the research. So if the topic is trending, if it's something interesting, it allows someone to get the PhD allows someone to get into huge depths in that topic, and that makes that person competitive on the job market. But that is to say that not all PhDs are equal, in my opinion, in their practical relevance and in helping someone join the job market. So sometimes for those who apply and get rejected from a PhD program, I would like to tell them not to feel sad about that, because that rejection may be actually the best thing that happened in their lives without them realizing it. Because a PhD is not, it is a 4, if not more years of concerted effort and a lot of effort, and one needs to be sure that this is something one wants to do, and the topic is central in that regard. And if we talk about law, because it's different to have a PhD and do a PhD in the hard sciences, when you're actually inventing new type of solar panel or curing cancer, etc. In law is much more different. So you need to have a very specific topic if you want to get out of the academia. If you want to be in the academia, just do a PhD, and you have to do it in order to stay in the academia.
That was very interesting to know. Thank you very much. And I'll pass the floor to the beautiful Mara.
Hi. Actually, before asking my questions to Ms. Skendo, I would like to thank everyone who has been asking questions on the YouTube stream. Please continue to do so. We will be answering everything towards the end of the panel. And now for my first question, it will be regarding ILSA. Seeing as you just graduated and were also an active member for the last couple of years, maybe you can tell us what were the benefits from your point of view, and how much did the extracurricular activities in general do you think mattered in your application for both internships and for master programs?
Yes, thank you very much for your question. I could talk for hours about ILSA. I have a very special connection. Actually, my very first contact with the country and the university was through ILSA. So I started my bachelor in 2016, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the first year that ILSA provided the field trips. So the introduction week, and basically the same day that I embarked on my journey in The Hague, I joined the ILSA field trip. So we got a tour of the university, we got a tour of the town, of the city, we went to Delft, we explored a lot. And not surprisingly, the majority of the people that joined those field trips ended up being my actual friendships throughout the 4 years. As you can imagine, it was the majority of those students were international students, and I think they also saw it as a great opportunity to meet new people and to bond with students, to get to know the city a bit more in the university. So just on the top of my head, I can think this was greatly beneficial for me, because it gave me a place of support. It created a rather small social circle for me, and then just the engagement of feeling like you're part of something. It felt really nice in the first few months of university, where we all know we feel a bit homesick and we're still adjusting to the new life. So that was great. During my years, I was an active member of 2 committees, to the social events and the exam prep committee. I really enjoyed both of them, but especially the exam prep committee. We had an amazing opportunity to teach our peers, so basically our students and our friends, act as lecturers. And while preparing those lectures, you really have to learn a lot, and you really have to demonstrate high knowledge about the subject that you're teaching. It really helped with public speaking for a lot of us who did it. It helped with just really knowing the courses that you're teaching also helped our students. There's nothing better, I think, for everyone who has taught to hear that, yeah, you helped me in my exam, or I really paid attention to what you said and I did well because of you. So those are great feelings, I would say. And then not to mention all the parties and the events that ILSA organized throughout the years. I think those are some of the best memories that I have of my student life. And in terms of how ILSA helped with applications and for internships and masters, I would say definitely so, because every time you write some application, you have to demonstrate that you can be in a cooperative sort of environment, that you need to be a team player. And I think there's nothing better, there's not a better venue to prove and to show that. I've used I've written the fact that I've been part of student associations in my application, so I think they've definitely helped. For masters as well, you need to show some interpersonal skills. You need to show that you've been active and you've been doing extra things besides your studies, so it really enriches you. I haven't heard this, but I can only imagine that it's really a great benefit for you as an applicant. But regardless from that, the greatest things that I would take from ILSA is the memories and the benefit that I was talking about. So yeah, I'm really happy and really proud of making that good decision of joining ILSA on the very first day.
Thank you so much. And actually, since you brought it up, we would like to remind everyone who's watching that we do have actual videos where we're showing around both the city, the most important things, as well as the university that my colleagues Bianca, Sarah, and David did of The Hague. So if you're currently not there due to everything that's happening, or if you're your first year student, please also check them out. And now I will give the floor back to Bianca.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I think now we can continue with the questions. And I know David has another question.
Yeah, so the question will still be for Ms. Brust. So basically, you mentioned your process from going from the Hague University to China and doing an internship. And as everyone can imagine, that it could be frustrating at times. I can speak on behalf of some students that they keep wondering, like, what is going to happen after I finish? Am I going to be able to find a job? And all sorts of concerns like that. So my question would be, how was this transition place for you? Being part of a university, dealing with students and teachers, and then shifting to dealing with lawyers and businessmen and people who think very highly of themselves and are actually doing plenty of interesting and important things. So, yeah.
Thank you, David. So the transition process as a whole, it was, to be honest with you, it's been quite a journey. So it's been very exciting at times. In general, it's been a lot of ups and downs moments where I've been very excited, especially starting, my first job in China. Because you're part of the working world and it's new and it's fresh. So I think I would divide it into 3 phases. So the first phase of you going from being a student to an intern, I think that was probably the most, well, no, that's not true, but it was a shocking phase for me. But it was also a really energetic phase. Everything is new, it's exciting, you're learning so much, you're soaking everything in. You're figuring out how an organization works, how it is like to work with people. Also, maybe the negative things about working in an organization. So there's a lot of politics and how to deal with all those things. So, but in general, the first 2 years, at first I was an intern and then I got offered a job there in China. It was a very energetic period for me because it was all new and fresh. Then I hit, I think after 2 years, I entered into a new phase. So I was hit by a kind of like is this it moment? So I was asking myself a lot of questions. So it was quite an uncertain period of my life. So I didn't know if I wanted to continue my profession in China. Did I want to come back home? Should I get my LLM now? Because everyone else that I was working with already had at least their LLM. I was the only one. So I felt sort of left out. Does it matter? I'm already doing the same work as everyone else. Do I need it? Do I want to have a generalist position? Do I want to have a specialist position? So I went through this really uncertain phase of my life. And that was quite confusing. But like I said, the advice that I wish I would have given to my younger self, it sort of falls into place because I decided to just take things one step at a time. So then the next phase, which would be like from the intern to having, becoming a legal counsel, or in between I was a paralegal. I did my LLM in between first. And that was also quite challenging because all of a sudden you feel, this extra weight of responsibility on your shoulders. As an intern, it's very easy to go to your supervisor and say, hey, what do you think about this? But now I'm really expected to be, the person that takes the risk for certain decisions. And that can be a new set of, a new skill that at least I had to learn. So it's this constant battle of learning and sort of uncertainty, but at the same time, as you enter each new phase, it's also energizing and exciting. So it's been a long road, but now I think I can finally say I'm in a place where I've sort of found a balance, and I'm very content with where I am, and I don't have this internal struggle in my head anymore, which is very peaceful.
Thank you. That is very encouraging and comforting to hear. I'll pass the floor to Bianca.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it is very, and really looking forward to that, to finally that stage in my head. So now I'd like to continue with Miss Henriksson again. And you live and work in Finland, which is your home country, and also has Mr. Dr. Vatsov mentioned, going back should always be an option that we should keep in mind. But I wanted to ask, what were then the challenges? What was it like finding a job in the national field after an international degree? And again, what were the challenges that you faced, but also what were the benefits that you thought you may had compared to your other peers that studied at the national level?
Thank you. Yeah. Funny enough, I never thought I would come back to Finland. I was always sure I will stay in the Netherlands or out in the world forever, and I might still go. This is not my final decision or anything. But so after Uganda, after doing different internships at 2 different courts, and then I was also interning at UNICEF after my master's degree. I really realized that it seems a little bit difficult to get an entry-level job in the international criminal law field, because it looks like it is expected that you gain, because criminal law systems are on a national level. So and before you enter into the international level, it's expected that you have some kind of experience at the national level first in the national domestic legal system, criminal law systems, and then you can go international. So this was my issue of finding a job in the international criminal law field that is an entry level and not only internships. So I came back to Finland, and I ended up looking for work for 6 months. And so I would apply everywhere. I was using all of the ideas of my friends who had studied law here, and looking at internships from different universities here, from different government agencies and companies and everything. And I think one of the challenges was that all of those years, I had studied 5 years abroad, and all of that time, the people who had been studying here had all that time to develop relationships with the lecturers, with different employees, because people here, when they start law school, they start working on part-time. They go to a law office and they become paralegals, or they make coffee, but they are there. So people know them, they have relationships, and then it's easier for them to get jobs because somebody knows them. And so nobody knew me. I didn't know anyone. So I started from nothing. And also what I noticed that my specialization was so opposite of broad. It was so specific. And there are not many, I mean, I applied to, human rights organizations and different agencies, but I heard nothing. I didn't even get one single reply or invitation to an interview. But then all the wait was worth it, because what I saw was that when I was applying, I think I applied to 50 different places. I applied everywhere. There was no limit to where I would apply, because I thought, with this tactic, at least I'm going to learn how to write perfect motivation letters. And also, somebody is going to pay attention to me. And so finally they did. And then now it turned out that it was good that I was, all this time I was doing something that I was really interested in, which is criminal law and criminology also. And with the international twist now, so the NBI in Finland, the national police, they have cases on terrorism, they have war crime cases. And so they saw my CV because I was applying to a different place. And then that very specific expertise was useful then. So that was a really good benefit, because then people compared to people who have a different degree or are in a national law, they don't have, at this age or at this point of their careers, they don't have that kind of expertise in the international field. So there are ways that you can use your international experience from the international field in the domestic systems. And as long as you find the right person or the organization who really realizes your value, and then can find a place for you. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to stay here forever. I am dreaming about at some point going out to the world again. But it's nice. It's also important that you develop experience somewhere. So even if it has to be your own country, it's okay. I think it's okay, at least for me, because then after a few years here, then I'm going to have more credibility in going back into the international field again, because any experience is good if it's in your specific field of interest. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much. That was very good to know. It's hard, it may be hard, but then, never give up and still pursuing and trying. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And yes, I do agree. Like, it was very motivational in that I also do believe everything does happen for a reason, and the right thing for you is just around the corner. And back to you, Dr. Vatsov. Before I ask my main question, out of curiosity, I would like to know, where did you prefer more, Edinburgh or The Hague studying, like in the study-wise aspect?
It's hard to compare, because I don't know. They both have their own beautiful sides. It's really hard. It's like comparing apples and oranges. I mean, Edinburgh doesn't have the Peace Palace Library, but in The Hague you don't have the Scottish. I don't know. It's every place for itself. Let's put it like that.
Yes, I do agree. And so back to my main question. I have noticed that you have a great interest in the area of fisheries. And for over a year now, you have been a consultant at the Ministry of Agriculture of Bulgaria. And just recently have become a fisheries expert at the FAO, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization. So congratulations, first of all. And what is the day-to-day life like?
Well, the day-to-day life, especially this year, involves a lot of sitting on the couch and being in online meetings, just like this one. So from that side, it is not much different to what everyone else that is listening does. But jokes aside, more specifically, the type of tasks I have been involved They're related to developing, for example, options for policy choices for the higher management, reading and editing texts, intervening in conferences on behalf of the organization, depending on which hat I'm wearing. For example, on the side of the ministry now, I'm involved in the team preparing the positions of Bulgaria in the negotiations of the new regulation on the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund. That's one of the EU structural funds. As well as I'm involved in with the team writing the new operational program of Bulgaria for that fund. So we are in that. Everyone has heard about these negotiations now of the multi-annual financial framework at the EU, which is the next 7 years budget. And with these negotiations, we have the renegotiations of the funds. So I'm working on the part for fisheries on behalf of Bulgaria, so part of that team. On the side of the FAO, I'm involved in a team working on compliance, basically, and building the so-called GFCM Lex tool, which is a new repository of national legislations relating to fisheries. The national legislations of the contracting parties to the GFCM, which, as I said, it stands for the General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean. It covers the whole Mediterranean, including the Black Sea. So it's a huge organization with a lot of importance in Europe. That tool, the GFCM Lex, is soon to be launched as a pilot. It covers 3 countries and will hopefully expand in the future to cover all the countries in the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. So a lot of research there, legal research, but again, a little bit of compliance. What I have learned, I could say, from this experience is that really fisheries can provide legal professionals with a lot of work. Work that is interesting, work that is important for all of us in terms of environmental concerns that I think we all share. And it is work that can pay well. Also, fisheries issues, we should remember, have been at the heart of pivoting legal developments for a lot of, since, let's take starting from the arguments Grotius made in Mare Liberum. Some of his arguments there on the freedom of the seas were based and were related to fisheries. And then we continue through more recent matters such as the turbot wars between Iceland and the UK last century, which were given actually as the only example as some kind of military conflict between democratic states in modern time. And it was on fisheries. And then we can continue with the Norwegian fisheries case at the ICJ, which told us a lot about formation of customary law. Again, it had to do with fisheries. Then we can move in the domain of the EU with for example, the Hague case, which the court, the first instance at the time, discussed direct and individual concern in EU law. That also had to do with fisheries and specifically the mesh sizes of the fishermen nets. How small the holes in the nets are, to put it simply. Also, we can think of the Factor 10 case, a very important case that tells us about the effect of EU law in now former EU member state, the UK. And we can see now, and that case actually, it had to do with the ownership rules for fishing vessels in the UK. And today we can see how central fisheries are in the Brexit negotiations. And there are many other examples. So we can see that generally fisheries is something that we don't think about. It's not the central area of work for a legal professional, but all of those examples that they've given to you all of us have studied these cases, and they're leading cases for a particular issue. And they have all been based on dispute that has to do with fisheries. So I think that if we as legal professionals, put more attention to that area, we can find a lot of interesting things to do and feel good about it.
Yes, thank you very much. And it also shows how you can implement your interests, which are like fisheries, the environment, sustainability, into law, and shows like how law is not just limited to one field and one, like you can mix your interests into law. So it's very interesting. And I'm also very interested in how the Brexit negotiations will go, since I'm actually British. So that point is highly interesting to me. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And now my question is again for Ms. Skendo. I think that many times after graduating law school with a bachelor degree, a lot of students struggle whether to pursue a master or to start off with some work experience. Why did you decide to directly continue your studies? Was it hard to apply for a master's degree and get into Queen Mary University of London?
Yes, thank you very much for your question. I felt this struggle very recently, actually, considering that I just graduated. So this entire year, from the beginning till the end, has been constantly trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my studies. So if I were to be completely honest, I had always, from the very first day that I started this cycle of studies of the bachelor's, I had always known or always thought you're going to finish this cycle and then you're going to immediately go to a master's. You're going to get as many qualifications in as possible while you're young, and then enter the job market and take it from there. This was always the plan in the back of my head. And things happen, as we saw for this year, really unprecedented. I know this word has been overused, but it was truly unprecedented. And obviously my plans, like everyone else's plans, were greatly impacted. So that really shook things off for me. I went from knowing for sure that I want to study to perhaps it's not a really good idea of studying this year. But then as time passed by and as I saw a lot of my peers going to masters, and then as I started thinking a bit more about my job prospects or my, let's say, chances of getting a job, I thought that it's probably a better idea or a more convenient idea to not enter the job market as we speak, but rather get some qualifications first, get myself to be an even more attractive applicant with a master's degree. And then, of course, I'm not saying it's going to be easy then, but at least the job market, which is a really, really competitive place, especially in the industry that we're at, as if it wasn't competitive enough, then you have a global pandemic that will give a shortage of works. And I thought this is really not the right time, or I at least thought that it was really hard for me to gain that beginner work experience because I did apply. I started looking for jobs, and I thought perhaps it would be a good idea to reserve that student experience for physical teaching, because one of the main reasons why a lot of students wouldn't want to study this year is you will miss out, or most likely miss out, on that student experience or on campus. And we all know that online teaching is not ideal. It's not ideal for us. It's not ideal for those who teach it. So these were all in the back of my head. I think students of my generation that graduated this year had a bit of a more of a heightened dilemma. And so it wasn't an easy decision. I applied to several universities, all in the UK. I ended up getting admitted to all of them. So I really couldn't say if it was hard or if it wasn't. I know for a fact that in order to get admitted, you need to have good tailored motivation letters. So you need to really take your time and put some effort to say why you want to study there. Of course, average is really important. What I think really helped me and what usually helps students is my internship experience. It was a really reputable, prestigious international court. So I think that really helped. When I applied in the spring of 2020, I'm going to be honest, I wasn't really sure whether I wanted to study. I did it mostly to see where I'm standing and if I can get admitted easily or not, and just to keep my options open, which I did. And as time passed by and as I really weighed in my options, I decided that studying this year, no matter if it is online, in person, or in campus, I would do that and reserve this very scary part of, yes, I'm scared as well, of jumping into the job market. I thought that I would reserve that for a bit later. Of course, I do not know whether that is the right decision. We're just going to have to see. But this is basically the thought process that went behind this. And I totally feel it. I just came out of this. It wasn't an easy decision, as I know it's not an easy decision for anyone. But you just have to make do. You have to make the best of the situation that you're presented with. And I can only hope that I made a good decision. So that was behind what went behind my head, when I thought of getting to a master's. It's particular to the university that I ended up going with. Again, I'm not really much of help in this. I got admitted. I think that tailored motivation letters are really, really nice, and to everyone to take their time writing those. So yeah, that was all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we will move to the Q&A part of the panel. Thank you again to everyone who has submitted a question thus far. And I will start with a general one, so the floor is open to each one of you. Considering the fact that you obtained your bachelor degree from an applied science university, how was the transition to a research university for your master? What were the particular challenges, or what did you find were the advantages, and so on?
I can start. Yeah, if that's okay. I went to Maastricht to do a master's in forensics, criminology, and law. And well, the biggest challenge was that we had to study psychology. So we had to study psychological, what are those? What do you call them? Tests, the journals, like how they make, psychological studies. Yes, studies. So we had to study those. And that's it. It has its own jargon. So that was challenging. But otherwise, the Hague really, I feel like it prepared me for everything, because we learned how to read legal text in the Hague. We had to read so much. And we actually, I felt like I was a lot more better prepared with the amount of work at the university, because I feel like in the Hague, we had a really tight schedule, and you just had to be really organized to manage all of it. And the benefit, the reading was not an issue, but the benefit was that compared to people who came from universities, I feel like people who came from The Hague also had the skills to present their arguments, because we also learn how to present ourselves and to through all of these practical exercises and the skills and all of that. So that was I really appreciated that when I went to university and when I am at the university now, because in the master level, you're going to have those kind of workshops and smaller groups, what we have in The Hague in the third year or so on. And so people in The Hague who studied there at the Hague University, they already were used to that. So they were used to expressing their opinions and arguing. And yeah, I thought that was really, really helpful. I don't know, what did the others think?
Thank you.
I agree with you. I think as for the transition itself, it wasn't anything. It was just like a different structure, right? So we had these more personal tutorials where would be. So you really had to prepare, because if you didn't do the reading, your tutor would know, because you would really go into detail about everything that you had studied. I at one point, I know at Philips, when we were hiring interns, we actually, I think out of 5 interns, 4 of them were from the Hague University, because we sort of actually preferred this more like hands-on practical approach that they had, and it was very easy to train them, and they picked up really fast. So So it was all positive for me. Yeah, just a different challenge, I would say.
That's very, very good to know. Thank you.
Thank you. And another question, which is for Ms. Brust. Which firm did you work for in China, if you don't mind telling us?
Sure, I worked for King & Wood Mallesons. So it was actually traditionally a Chinese law firm, but it was based in Hong Kong, and it merged with Australia's top law firm while I was there. So I was part of the merger, which was really exciting. So it's sort of a cross between China and Australia, but they also have offices in London as well, where I also interned for a while in the beginning. And across Europe. I think at one point they wanted to open an office here in the Netherlands as well. They said they would give me a call, but I haven't heard anything from them yet. So I guess they're not planning on opening anything. But yeah.
Thank you. And another question, which is general. Which skills you think are the most important in the practical working environment? And maybe Dr. Mihail can start the discussion on this one.
Skills. Well, before answering this question, I would like to return to the first general question with respect to, the Hague University or the program as I graduated in 2013, there was no downside to it. If anything, as you can see, you can graduate that program and eventually end up having a PhD. So the academic side is not a problem. And I'm not the only one who has graduated the Hague University and then went on to have a PhD. There is another classmate from the year 2013, Dionysius Tibas, who went on to get his PhD in Hong Kong, actually. And he's now teaching there. So this program is not going to be an issue if you want to have an academic career. It's equally not going to be an issue if you want to have a more practical career. May pose some issues if you really want to be the old school lawyer arguing before the court. But once you graduate the university and you get onto the job market, you'll see that career choice is it's very narrow, meaning that legal professionals that end up being actual lawyers arguing before court, it's a very small percentage. So that's not an issue. And even if that's something you want to do, there are still ways to achieve it. So that's not an issue. So no one can be, should not be bothered by this Hochschule thing. And then getting back to the question, the second question, with respect to skills, I think the skill of critically thinking and asking questions and doubting everything, this is probably the most important skill that not only lawyers, anyone as a good citizen, you should doubt everyone and everything, especially the government, but especially if you are a lawyer, you should doubt everything and everyone and question whether what is written and what is said is really true. This is the only way for professionals like us to move forward, and this is something that has really helped me a lot. Everywhere I go, I just question things, and eventually people, through questioning things, they see that you can think and the way you think, and they like it.
Thank you. And if the others would like to add anything to this particular question? If not, we can move forward. This next question is for Miss. Sorry? No? Okay.
Yeah, I think Miss.
Skendo. Yes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add a little detail about the question of, for example, I know that when I first started my journey, I knew that this wasn't a university or research university. I knew what it meant, and it bothered me for a bit because in the Netherlands it seems to be a big deal. Not really, but it seems to be kind of a different thing. I just wanted to say that for everyone who had this concern, like I did, to not worry at all because you can easily get into basically every master's degree that you want. I know a lot of friends of mine who've gone to get masters to the very best universities in the world. So it makes literally no difference. You can go ahead and get the masters you want, the PhD you want, to get the job you want, and it will mean nothing that you went to a HBO like we did. So this is a thing that's very particular to the Netherlands because of the system, the university system. But I think in real life, this doesn't matter at all. And I've heard this a long time ago, so I thought I'd share it for everyone that is a bit concerned about this.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's very reassuring.
Maybe I can just add to the skills part because, you know, what I've seen from resumes, almost all law students have good writing skills, research skills, and what I really appreciate and what I really think makes someone stand out is this self-management skills of taking initiative. So I was really impressed with my previous intern. She solved problems that I didn't even know that I had, and I thought, wow, that's great because there's so many. We receive so many applications, and people always do what they're told. But that extra taking initiative, I think it will take someone a long way.
Thank you. And as my colleague Bianca said, that is very reassuring for us to hear. The next question is for Ms. Skendo and Ms. Henriksson. Since you both did an internship at the ICC, how did you get an internship there? And what did you do to increase your chances of getting in? What is your best advice when applying for an internship at the ICC particularly?
Should I start? Yeah, that one is a little bit difficult for me because I was in the third year when I applied. I had started my specialization already in the international criminal law, and we had this course with Alejandro Kiss. I'm not sure if he's teaching there anymore, but he was giving a course, something, I think it was on international criminal law, something, one of those specialized courses. And then he was encouraging us to apply. And at that time, I didn't have anything else to show except for my specialization. And I had some extracurricular activities that I was part of this Model the Hague Peace Conference thing, a moot court thing. So these were the only things that I had, and then the motivation letter. So, and I guess I chose the right place because I was applying to the victims unit that I was really passionate about. So I must have written like a really honest, passionate motivation letter because that was actually the place where I wanted to be. So yes, and now I remember something crucial because in the year 3, we had to write a paper. I'm not sure if you do that anymore, but it's like a preparation for your, yeah. And so I wrote about like something related with the ICC, this a former child soldier, like a child soldier who had turned into an adult. And then this is actually a crazy story now that I remember it. So I was writing my year 3 paper on this guy who had been, but 10 years ago in the conflict in Uganda, they tried to arrest him, but he got away. And then so I wrote a paper at the same time when after 10 years, he was actually arrested after being hiding for 10 years, and he was brought to the ICC. And so then the case started there, and then I applied, and I had just written about this guy because, yeah. But so just, be honest, just think which field there interests you the most, and then try to do something that shows that you're really interested in it. Write about it, read about it, try to do something about it, and then you're gonna have a better chance for sure.
Okay, so I'm gonna continue. This is the question I get often, and so I'll elaborate. My experience was a bit different. I actually struggled with finding an internship because I remember I did this thing that I don't really recommend or suggest a lot of students to do. I was a bit stubborn into I'm only applying to those institutions I really want to get in. So I remember there was a seasonal opening at the ICC for like 20 or something vacancies. So it was the defense teams, the chambers, the presidency, a lot of them. I ended up applying to all of them, of course, tailoring my motivation letter, and we also had to present a word sample, so like a written around 1,000 words or something like that. So to be very honest with you, I did not think that I would get it. I applied to all of them and I thought, I just wish I could get the presidency because, when I'd read the description, that's really related to law of international organizations, a lot about diplomacy. It's a bit different than the other divisions, which are, I would say, a bit strictly legal. So I was particularly interested in that, but because I thought it was so far off, I didn't even entertain the idea. So the recruitment process was a bit special. I heard back from several divisions actually at a time where I kind of had lost hope for my internships. I heard from chambers, so I was picked from vacancies at the chambers, and I was also picked at the presidency. And the most important thing, and I think what really sealed the deal, or what sealed the internship, me getting the offer, was I spoke about my LLB thesis. I just finished my LLB thesis exactly in the law of international organizations. So the person behind that phone and behind the interview was also very interested in hearing about that, and he saw that I had made extensive research, and I knew quite a lot about that particular field. So it really ended up being very tailored to my interests and to my needs. My advice to students who wish to get an internship at the ICC is to apply as much as they can, and to really tailor, as Ms. Henriksson said, to really tailor and say why they want to work there and what they want to change. It's also a bit about luck. It's being discovered at the right time by the right person who has the luxury of training someone who basically has no other qualifications. It's really true what she said. I also had just 3 years of university, and I also had an experience at my Ministry of Justice in Albania, but that was on a domestic level. So I really did not have much experience, and I just threw my applications and hoping to get something in there. And so it's a lot about people giving people a chance, because as a lot of interns at the ICC know, the average intern there has master's degrees and has a lot of qualifications, and it's something that intimidated me at first, but I would encourage everyone to try, because you never know. Just try, and it could also end up working very well for you.
Thank you so much. And now for another general question. Did you ever regret not choosing a traditional law career, such as, for example, taking a bar exam? And what was the thought process behind not choosing a traditional career and opting for the international and European study?
If I can start on this one, but before actually starting with this question, I would just want to add to what was said with respect to internships. Okay, I have not done an internship at the ICC, but I had a similar experience to what Siera and Kerttu spoke of when I did my Blue Book traineeship at the Commission. So it is important to really tailor your application to places you want to go. So I had, at the time I applied for my Blue Book traineeship, I had already researched fisheries for several years. I was already well into my PhD doing fisheries, and I applied specifically to DG Mare, which is obviously the DG that deals with ocean and fisheries issues. So I would like to just echo what was said. apply, but also tailor your applications because it will show eventually. You need to be able to choose something you're passionate about, and then see what is the institution that you can develop in and actually support through your internship. Now. Can you repeat again actually the question, because I went on the internships for too long. Can you just
Yes, of course. So the question was, did you ever regret not choosing a traditional law career?
Yeah. No, not really. I don't think that there could have been any place better for me to start my career and to study than the Hague University and the International Law Program. If I were to compare it with the national law schools, for example, in Bulgaria, yeah, I would have been qualified and I would have been able to do some things, but I don't think that I would have been any happier, or I would have been more knowledgeable about the things I'm interested in. So I would say no, I wouldn't change anything.
If I could add to that question, really, really interesting and important question is, not only do I not regret coming to The Hague and studying international law, but I think it will remain one of the biggest honors of my life. I really wanted to do this, and I also saw through the eyes of someone else really close to my family. So my brother's also a lawyer, my father's also a lawyer. I experienced, I would say firsthand, the national domestic law school kind of system. And I saw the way that he was being taught and everything. And of course, that is very respectable, and anyone is free to choose whatever they want to do. But for me, and for people who really want to study international law and who think of themselves as people who want that international career, I think this is a perfect opportunity, or it's a perfect idea to do this. As I said before, the exposure you get is really great. And if you don't get that job in that moment, at least you know what you want to do and you know where you want to keep applying. So I would say not only do I not regret it, but I am actually really, really glad I made this decision. It's so much more versatile and exciting than a national law system. Let's not even mention the aspect of studying internationally, so studying abroad, which is a completely different thing on its own. But just the course itself is so dynamic, so great. I'm really proud of having made that choice.
Thank you. And if no one wants to add anything, the next question is for yes.
Can I just add just one more thing? Because just to mention that, you know, it can still be an option. It doesn't have to be you don't have to give up the idea of also practicing law at some point, because yeah, as it turns out now, I went back to law school now in Finland. I'm doing a master's in Finnish domestic law, because if you are interested in criminal law and international criminal law, it's really difficult to at least in my experience, to build your career only in the international criminal law field, because in order to get in there, you need to have some kind of experience at the domestic level as well. And here it's a little bit difficult to practice if you don't have the national degree. So, but even though now at that point when you're still studying your first degree, it might sound horrible to even imagine that you're going to do another one when you're still working. But if you're really interested in what you're doing, like if you have a nice job at that point and you want to develop yourself, and it's going to give you more tools, and you know, next year I'm going to be able to pick my courses, it's not that bad. So just to, you know, remind you that it's still a possibility. You can still do it. It doesn't mean that if you go to The Hague, you cannot become a lawyer in court. You can still do that as well at some point if you want.
Thank you. The next question is for Ms. Brust. How was the application process like for your internship in China? If you can give us more details.
My internship in China. I think it was a pretty much standard process. I had, let me think. I submitted my CV online, I think, and then I had 2 rounds of interviews. The first was with HR, with very basic, basic questions, and the second was with the partner that I would end up working for. So one of the partners in the EMEA corporate department. And through Skype, of course, because I was still here in the Netherlands. And after that, I was pretty much hired. And then, that was it. I also did an internship at LG Electronics, and it was actually even more straightforward. I just had one interview with the legal team altogether. So I think, it's pretty standard, I would say. I guess that's how it still is.
Thank you. The next question is again a general one. What kind of extracurricular activities, both on and off campus, do you think are the most valuable on a CV? The floor is open to everyone.
For me, I think it depends, right? On who you want in your team and who is a good match for you and your team. For me, I always like to see that someone has like a life outside of school, and they have hobbies and does things that they enjoy, and that it's not all about school because you're working with people in the end, right? So that's for me really important. But also, I would also appreciate to see people who did things like what you guys are doing now, volunteering in these organizations, but also having jobs. A lot of my friends were working, and I think that shows that you're good at managing your time, and that you're dedicated and still going through law school and working at the same time. So those are the 2 things that I really appreciate.
If I could step in on that, for those that are wondering and are not clear on what kind of extracurricular activities they want to do, if you have the time, do languages. If you don't have anything better, do languages, because you can always use an extra language, and also through learning a language, another different language, you're learning another different culture, right? So if you're not sure, this is always a safe bet. Languages.
Then I have a question to you. Did you learn any languages then? Extra ones?
Well, I didn't have the time. I said if you have the time, I did my 4-year degree in 3 years, and then I was back-to-back LLM, PhD, publishing. Have a high level of another language, like C1 or something like that. I picked up some basic Italian, French, etc., but I wouldn't say that I learned a new language in that sense.
Yes, but you were exposed to the culture, so I think it's...
One point, study Dutch. Just study basic Dutch, because it's so embarrassing when I tell people that I lived in the Netherlands for 5 years and I cannot speak Dutch. People look at me like, what? How can you be so lazy? They don't understand that I did law school, okay, and a few other things, but just like a basic Dutch.
Unfortunately, I think we're following your footsteps.
I was the same. But then again, in the Netherlands, you don't really need it, do you? I mean, everyone speaks English, and if you don't need to, you don't.
Yeah, that was my whole. When I first came here, I told myself I couldn't live in the Netherlands for 4 years without learning the language. I was like, I need to take advantage of being abroad. And now I'm in the 3rd year of the law program, 3rd year living here, and I'm not exact, but I think I know like those 2 or 3 words that I picked up at the supermarket, and that's it. Doei, dankjewel, and that's it. So yeah, definitely make some time for languages and from Dutch. Thank you.
But it's a good question. I think it's also really important when you go into interviews to have an answer ready for that question. because I remember at Philips I had 3 rounds of interview. The second interview was just an hour and a half. They were asking me about my hobbies. So I was talking about salsa dancing for 1.5 hours, believe it or not. And so have hobbies, but also talk about them in your interviews. Yeah, if asked.
Thank you. And the last question is for Ms. Skendo. Does not being an EU citizen affect your internship application in any way?
Yes, thank you. Very important and very interesting question. I think being a non-EU citizen affects everything. Other non-EU citizens or students will agree to that. But of course, it affects your internship opportunities. So I will say it again. I studied PIL, Public International Law. I really wanted an internship, or even for jobs. I would love to get a job in that field, even though it's rather limited, as my colleagues have said. Really great institutions where you could potentially work are, let's say, European Commission, European Parliament, all the traineeships and everything like that. And you cannot apply. You cannot apply. So the barrier is right there. You cannot apply. And it really feels horrible that it's something that is not in our hands. It is something that has nothing to do with us besides our passport or our nationality. But it's something that I don't want to sound harsh, but it's something that European citizens, which is the majority of students that go to our university, kind of take for granted. You know, they never have to go through these struggles, through these challenges. Just one particular example that I have is the Kosovo specialist chambers, right? It'd be an amazing opportunity for all the Albanian or the Serbian-speaking students. Well, you cannot get an opportunity for an internship or for a job because the first prerequisite is having an EU nationality. It's a bit absurd in my opinion, but it is what it is, and so it really impacts you. I would say not just internships and jobs, but really just any aspect of your life. It feels like life is a bit harder. Other students will agree. Life is a bit harder when you are non-EU, I would say, and it really makes you think and believe. It makes you think about how Europe is an amazing place full of free services, free movement, and opportunities for everyone. But when you're outside it suddenly is really hard to thrive. So in that sense, I would say I know the options are limited, but there's still institutions, for example, the ICC, who will take applications from the entire world, and these are the chances that we can get for the EU, particularly EU institutions. Unfortunately, that's not a possible thing for us. So yeah, really important question. It is really hard. I do have to agree with that.
Thank you
I
for
might
answering.
just step in on that, just for the EU institutions part, because I mean, I don't know whether it's for all of them, but with respect to the Commission, for example, the Blue Book traineeship, it does allow for non-EU citizens to apply. So I don't know how it is for the Parliament or the Council. Because when I did my traineeship last year, I had a colleague from Syria and a colleague from Iran. So at least on the Blue Book traineeships, that shouldn't be an issue, but I don't know how it's on the other.
I wanted to apply, thank you. I wanted to apply, I really wanted a traineeship with the Commission, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And no, with the Commission, you can, with the one that you can't, I believe is the European Parliament. So I know for a fact that there are a few limited agencies, EU agencies, first and foremost, that really have that nationality prerequisite.
Yeah, that may be, yeah.
Thank you. And one last question for Ms. Brust. Did you learn any Chinese?
I did take courses for 3 months, but keep in mind, I was working at a Chinese law firm, so I basically never left the firm. And my courses were, if I could go, would be after work. And I would spend 2 hours learning one character. So after, I think it was 3 months, I thought, yeah, like I said, focus on my strengths and not my weaknesses.
Thank you. Yeah, that was it for the Q&A portion. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. And now I will give the floor back to Bianca.
Yes, Thank you, and yeah, I would like to thank you again, our speakers. Everything that you said was so inspiring, and yeah, all your experience were very, very interesting. And I know for sure, because we're already receiving feedback, everyone really appreciate it and are really gonna, listen to all the advices, because we are now, well, some of us they are now in their last years, and it's gonna be also very, very useful for the students that just started in September. So thank you again. And then, yeah, I would like to thank Mr. Lorange for giving ILSA the opportunity to have a panel, and also really thank the former board 2019-2020 for working very hard and making sure that ILSA had a panel and was involved with the Employment Network event. And lastly, a very huge thank you to my vice president, to Sarah Jane, who had a key role in the planning and organization of the event, and also to the ILSA Board 2020-2021, and to the marketing team, who you cannot see right now, but they're like doing an amazing job on our social platforms. So if you want to call them that way, since nowadays the social platforms, YouTube and everything, are very, very important. So thank you again for them. And my last thank you is to everyone who attended and supported us and the panel this afternoon. So thank you again, and this is the conclusion of the panel, and have a great evening, everyone. Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you again. And
Bye. Thank you.
yeah, we will see you, and hope to hear about all your successes and
Meet you live one
And
day.
yours too.
yeah, and
Yeah.
hopefully.
Success to all of you, because you're gonna be graduating very soon.
And also maybe just to ask if I know we were at my company, we're looking for interns. Now with Corona, it's a little bit more difficult, but starting from I think beginning of next year, we will be looking for interns. So if anyone is interested, please send me a CV.
Yes,
And it's at
Thank you.
Sun Chemical, so everyone can know.
yeah, we're gonna post about it as well. Thank you.